Hi everyone, it's me Darlene. I am back with another easy quilt block. I think we're going to like this one. I have not made this yet, but I did create some on Printmaster. I just created some rectangles and cut and snipped and turned things around just to see if I could get any cool designs, and I got a couple that I liked. So that was kind of fun, and I might be doing that again in the future. Although I really do like just making something with no clue as to how it's going to turn out. So I'm sure I'll still be doing that too. We need 2 rectangles. We're going to be making half rectangle triangles. I have done that before in the past. I meant to look up how long ago, but I forgot. And I think we might have done it a couple of times, but I'll link down below to those videos if you want to see the half rectangle triangles. I am going to show you again how to make it just because I can. We are going to end up with 2 half rectangle triangles out of these 2 blocks, and we're going to be using both of them to make the block. So it's going to give us 2 options of the final block, and I will be experimenting with both of those on the quilt board at the end of this video. Because I would like the 2 rectangles, when put together, to come out kind of square, I was a little bit fussy with the measurements of these. Again, it might not come out perfectly square, but we won't have too much to trim in any direction. So what I did is cut 2 pieces 3.5 inches wide by 8.25 inches tall. If you want to just play around with this, just do something like, 4 by 8, 5 by 10, whatever. And then if you want to put them together and be able to turn them, and put them in a quilt that way, if you want to turn them, they need to be square, and you could just trim them at that point. But you can also just make a quilt with rectangles. We should do that one time, because I think that's a really cool look, rectangles instead of squares. So to do this, you have one face up and the other one face down. Normally we do this, right? And we draw a line on the diagonal, but with a half rectangle triangle, we have to do something funky. So watch. I'm going to take this corner and this corner, and I'm going to make sure these fingers end up here and these fingers end up here. So we go like this. Like that. That's all you need to do. And since this looks different than we're used to, I am going to put a pin on each side just to hold that into place. Now we are going to draw a line on the diagonal. Well, I guess I could pin after because it's hard to put that there with a pin. And you can draw with anything because we will be cutting on that line. Now I'm just going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew about 1/4 inch on each side of that line. So we have something that looks like this. I know you probably can't see the stitches, but I sewed on each side of that line. Now we're going to just cut on that line. And I will go press those open. Because of the way we sew on the diagonal, we're going to end up with, how do I show you this? The top and bottom does not match, so you can trim to start right at the tip of like where the brown is for me. And on this side, probably easier to see this way. See, I would start here and trim across, so probably taking off about 1/4 inch or less. Or you can leave it like this until you're done the block, and then you can decide to trim the whole block, or you may want to leave it there as a seam allowance. Totally up to you. I'm not going to trim. So here's what we're going to do. Just put the blocks in the same direction, but I'm going to be cutting this way. So I'm going to turn them this way for my sake. And you want to find your center. How about we turn these over? This is a good idea. So they're in the same direction. I'm going to draw a line at the halfway point. Don't use a marker or something because you don't want the line to soak through, because that line will be staying on the fabric. We won't be cutting on that line. So use a pencil or a quilting marker of some kind. I'm just going to use this pen because it won't show through. I hope not. Okay, now I'm going to cut 1.25 inches on each side of that line. Like that. I'm just going to turn this all over again. Like this. So I'm going to leave it in this direction so you can see it. You know what I think I'm going to do? What my original plan was is to flip this. But how about we swap them too? So some of the wide will be with this block, some of the narrow will be with that block. So I flipped them both, and now I'm going to swap. Like that. Now I'm going to put these 3 back together and these 3 back together. I'm just going to go like this and sew and press open. Do the same on that side. I'm going to do both of those. Be right back. And my math was off, and I'll explain in a minute. But what we have are 2 rectangles now. I am not going to sew them together because I want to be able to turn one of these for the sake of the quilt board. But you would have a choice of sewing them together like this, and that would be your block. Or you can sew them like this, and that would be your block. Oh my goodness, do we have another choice? Putting this over here, and that's a block. And flipping, and that's a block. I'm probably not going to do all 4 of those. I have to look at this again. I probably just duplicated the design, but in a different direction. But you would want to decide how you're going to sew them together, and you would sew them together and that would be your block. Or you could make some blocks different, you know what I mean, in different directions. But here's the deal. I'm at 6, like maybe 6¼ inches. Let's just say 6 for the sake of easy math. When this is sewn together, we're going to be losing 1/2 inch because 1/4 inch on each side for seam allowance. So we're going to be at about 5½. But yet, that is way long. So that gives us 7 in that direction. So I'm going to actually have to trim this block up to make a square. I'm guessing that what we'd have to do is, let's see. We started with 8¼ by 3½, so maybe start with something like 7¼ That will probably bring you down to 6. Okay, so this is kind of a fail because I can't really show you what I wanted to show you, but it gives you an idea of how to play with things. And you don't have to create squares. You can just put rectangles like this together to create a quilt top if you want. That's just as cool, but I like it when it's a square so that I can turn them and sew them together. If I had 2 like this and turned it, it's not going to match up. So buttons. Anyway, that's the best I can do for you right now because I'm not starting over. So maybe if you're a math whiz, you can do better math than me. I'm kind of a math whiz. I thought I had figured it out perfectly, but I guess I did not. So I will put my thinking cap on. Maybe we can revisit this. I'll get it figured out and we'll try again. Thank you so much for watching. Quilt Show coming up. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more of my mistakes. Bye!